Welcome to Savvy's webinar on Adobe Acrobat DC Pro. What I have on my screen right now is a copy of the PDF that one of the PDFs that was sent to you. So this is the reference material. It's 46 pages. You're welcome to print it or view it on screen. And I'll be using this as a method for demonstrating some of the topics today, and I'll be using some of the other files. But when I switch files, I'll let you know which one I'm using. So I'm just going to go to the next page here. And just want to let you know what we're going to be covering. We're going to be focusing on, first of all, on the Adobe Acrobat interface and the different tools, and how to view and navigate through a PDF document. Then we're going to look at how you can create PDF files using different methods. So these methods will involve directly within another application, printing to PDF, and then using Adobe to create PDFs as well. So we'll give you a demonstration of the different ways you can do that. And then we'll spend some time looking at working directly with the PDF files, how to organize pages, setting the properties of the file, and exporting. Then moving on to editing content, we'll be looking at a number of different things in terms of how to edit the PDF, and part of what's going to be included there is electronic signatures and redaction, and then finally looking at combining files into one PDF. Now, the session today is scheduled for an hour and a half. I'm not sure if it'll go right to that point. So if we do finish early at that point, I will be taking questions. But please make note of any questions you have as you go along, as Katie mentioned, in the chat panel. So we'll have those as a reference if I don't get to them today, and we will respond by email. So starting off right away, just to review to go over the interface of what Adobe looks like when you start it. There are three views, main views to be concerned with. There's first of all the home view, and how I get to the home view is up here at the top. You can see I have some tabbed items. So I'm going to click home, and the home view, basically it's the landing page when there isn't a PDF open in Acrobat. So if you were to start Adobe without opening a file first, you would get taken to this view. And you can see it lists recent files. There's a toolbar up at the top, and it gives you access to anything that you might have stored on Adobe's document cloud or other storage. So this is sort of a starting point you can go to open files or go to recent files that you've used. The next tab over from the Home tab is the Tools tab, and this is the go-to place to discover all the different tools that are available in Acrobat. And all of the tools are visible in this view. And also what you have available on the right side is a Tools pane. Now, if this Tools pane is not displayed, it could be that it's been minimized. And you can see over here on the right, there's a tiny little triangle that's pointing to the right. If I click on that, you can see now the Tools pane disappears, and now that little triangle is now an arrow pointing left. So right now it's kind of a duplication where I have all the tools in this middle area, and then over here on the right are the default tools. Now, the other thing I'd like you to notice is as I'm looking through the tools here, they're categorized. So first of all, in the Create and Edit category, you can see that all of the icons have the word Open underneath them, except for the last one. So that means that all 5 or 6 of these first tools are also over here on the Tools pane. So it's kind of a shortcut area. Rich media has not been added because it's not one that's all that common. Now, if I wanted to add it, I just have to click the drop arrow, and then I just choose Add Shortcut. And now Add Shortcut is now added to the Tools pane over on the right, and now I see the word Open underneath here. Now, if I add something and I think, well, I don't use that all that often, I don't need to have it on the Tools pane, I can hover on it and I can click the X, and that will remove it. Now, a couple of options or a couple of tools that we're going to be using today that are not on the quick pane over on the right are, just going to scroll down here. We're going to be talking about stamps today. You can see the word Add is here. So I'm going to click on that and choose Add Shortcut. And then I'm going to scroll a little bit further forward, and we're going to be redacting. So I'm going to click beside Add and choose Add Shortcut there. And then finally, we're going to be looking at optimizing PDFs. So I'm going to click there and add that shortcut as well. So you can see it's now added those things at the bottom. Now, if I wanted to change the order of any of these, if I wanted something to be in a different order, if I want redact to be in front of stamp, I can actually click and drag it and it will be, the order will be changed. If there's any defaults that are on here that I don't want to use, so for example, if I'm not going to use the request signature option, I can click on the left here on open and just choose remove shortcut. That's one way, and now you can see it's not over here. The other thing is, if I say I didn't want to send for comments, a quicker way to remove it is just hit the X. So we've got a couple of different options, either removing it in this middle pane here by clicking the arrow and removing the shortcut, or clicking the X over here. Now you can see what I just did there is I clicked on something within the toolbar and I've actually brought up, I accidentally clicked on the scan and OCR, and now I've brought up the scan and OCR toolbar. I can just close that by clicking close over here on the right. So if you happen to click on something because you're curious about it, when it all of the tools will take you to the secondary toolbar up here at the top. All you have to do is click close and that takes you back out. So I'm going to minimize that toolbar for now. And you can see as soon as I clicked on the tool in the tools pane, it did take me back to the document. So all I'd have to do is go back here to tools. So I find that once I've gone into this area and added the things I'm going to use, I don't go to this tools tab very often. I use the one over on the right instead. Now I'm going to activate the document now. So you can see I've actually got 3 document tabs. By default, whenever you open a PDF, it will become a separate tab. And this is a new interface. I think it's in this version. It might have happened in an earlier version, but way back in other versions of Adobe, when you opened up multiple files, it didn't give you these separate tabs. So they're almost mimicking the tab feature that you have in some of your browsers. So for example, if I was in Chrome or Internet Explorer, Firefox, any of those will have the ability to have tabbed windows. So that's what's being mimicked here. But I will be showing you a little bit later on that if you don't want the documents to be in separate tabs, it is an option that you can change. But by default, they will be in tabs. So right now, I've opened up 3 of the sample files that we're going to be using today. So I have in this tab, I have the Acrobat Pro DC. Now, mine says test on it. The one I sent you doesn't have the word test, and that's fine. I was just experimenting with a few things. So yours doesn't have to have the word test on the end of it. Now there's the market summary. So you can see as soon as I click on another tab, it becomes the active view. So I'm going to go back now and I'm going to be looking at the Adobe Acrobat file. And another screen that you may want to have turned on is the navigation pane. And the navigation pane is an area of the workspace that allows you to display different navigation panels. Now, I don't see the navigation pane on my screen right now. So one way of turning it on is to go to the View tab up here at the top. And then if I go to Show Hide, I can choose Navigation Panes. And then down here at the right, I can choose Show Navigation Pane. And notice the letter F4 is beside it. So when I click on that, now I have the navigation pane displayed on the left side. And you'll see it has a little triangle arrow to the right of it. So if I bring up the navigation pane and I decided I want to hide it, I can click this little triangle. It will hide it, and then I can bring it back. I don't have to go all the way back to View, Show, Hide, Navigation Panes. I can just click this little arrow, and that'll bring it over to the right again. Now you notice this time it didn't expand it all the way, but I do see all of the icons on the side. So for example, now if I click this top icon, this is going to give me what are called thumbnails. So now I have access to my page thumbnails, so little miniatures of all the pages of my document. And I'm scrolling through all the way down to the bottom, and I can see that there are 46 pages to this document. I'm still looking at page 1, but now that I've scrolled through to the bottom and I can see the last thumbnail, if I click on the last thumbnail, it now changes me to that page. So the page thumbnails are a really quick way to navigate a lengthy document You just find the thumbnail that you want and you click on it and you'll be on that page. Other views on the left side here, if I go to the one below the page thumbnails, that is your bookmarks. And if your document has any bookmarks, the bookmarks will be displayed here. And this is another way of navigating to different pages. So for example, if I now wanted to learn about electronic signatures, because there's a bookmark for it, I can click the bookmark and now I'm on that topic. So this is something that you'll be able to use if you decide you don't want to print this document, but you want to use it as a reference. You'll be able to pull it up, bring up the navigation pane, and then click on the topic that you want. So there you can see now I'm on the information on redaction. Now I can click here on optimize PDF. I can see that. So I can just click by navigating on the, click the topic and I can navigate to that topic. The paperclip icon below the bookmarks, that would show me if there were any attachments to this file, which there aren't. The next one would show me if there were any signatures added. And then finally, the last one just gives me a view and edit page content. So if there's any, there's a little arrow here I can click on. So it actually gives me little miniatures to my pages. And then you can see it's actually gives me a lot more detail on the topic. So it's giving me all of the content as opposed to just the bookmarks that I saw here on the bookmark tab. I'm going to go back to the thumbnails. So again, if I want to hide this, I can either click this little arrow here and that puts it out of the way. I can click the arrow again to bring it back. And then if I click the thumbnail icon at the top, if I happen to hit this X, that closes it, but I can bring it back again with this little arrow. And actually, it looks like it's just toggling me back and forth between whether the icons show. I have to actually click the icon before the whole thing comes back out. Now I'm going to close it again. So either this X or this little arrow, either one of them will close it. Instead of messing around with trying to figure out what button I should be clicking on, I use a lot of keyboard shortcuts myself. And F4 is one that I use. See, at F4, you can see brought it out the navigation pane, pressing it again takes it back out. So as I showed you up here initially when we first started, if you're wondering if there is a keyboard shortcut for something, you will see it will display in the panel. So in this case, when I looked at the navigation pane, that's where I saw that shortcut. You will also notice there's a shortcut for the tools pane, and that's Shift F4. So if I press F4 by itself, I get the navigation pane. But if I press the Shift key in F4, now you can see the tools pane is expanded. I press it again and it's collapsed. Entirely up to you whether you want to use those keyboard shortcuts. I find they're not always as useful on, say, a laptop because my keyboard's a bit condensed. But on a full keyboard, I find it really, really easy to use. So again, that's just a personal preference. And as we go through today, if there is a keyboard shortcut, I will draw your attention to it. Now, when you're wanting to read through a document, there's a few different methods that you can use. First of all, I'm going to draw your attention now up here to the top of your screen, where I have on the toolbar, I have an arrow pointing up and one pointing down. Those arrows, if I hit the one pointing down, all it's doing is it's just taking me to the next page of my document. And you can see the page reference is changing here. So I can see exactly what page I'm on. The up arrow will take me the other way. If I want to use the keyboard, if I press the page down key all by itself, that doesn't take me to the next page. What that does is it takes me to the next screen. So if I was wanting to just scroll through and read my whole document, as I'm pressing page down, I know that I'm getting to the top half of the page and then the bottom half of the page. Now, how much you see will depend on what the zoom of your document is. So I'm going to go over here to this minus now. And as I click the minus, you can see it's showing me what percentage of the document I have. So if I say take it down to 66.7%, now when I'm pressing page down, you can see I'm actually seeing more of the document. So it's just taking you again to the next screen. Now, if I wanted to make sure that I was at the top of every page as I use the keyboard, I can use the key combination of Control, page down, or Control, page up. And you can see that's letting me see the top of each page. So if I was back in 100%, I'm not seeing the bottom half of the page, but I'm seeing the top as I move through. So again, quick way, I find I get less dizzy doing this. If I go this way, as opposed to scrolling, sometimes I find scrolling makes me a bit dizzy as I go through. And how I'm doing this is I'm just rolling the mouse. I have a mouse that has a wheel on it. So even though my mouse is in the middle of the page, I'm scrolling forward and up just using the wheel on my mouse, or I can use these arrows over here on the right to go up or down. So again, depending on how you want to work through, if you're just sort of browsing through using the scroll bars, may be a good idea, or if you want to just have it not scroll so quickly, using the keyboard is another good tool to use. Now, there is a feature called automatic scroll that's kind of interesting, and I'm just going to go back to I'm just going to move. Now I want to get quickly to the first page, so I'm just actually going to click here where I'm just highlighting the page number that's there, and I'm going to type a 1 and press enter. So now I'm back at page 1, and now I'm going to go to the View tab, and I'm going to go to Page Display, and then I'm going to choose Automatically Scroll. And again, notice the keyboard shortcut here. So when I click Automatically Scroll, I can actually sit back, take my hand off the mouse, and what it's doing is it's scrolling through the document automatically. If I want it to stop, I can just hit the Escape key and it will stop at that point. If I want to start again, I can go back to View and back to Page Display, back to Automatically Scroll, and it will continue. Now, if I don't want to have to keep going back to the menu, once I've pressed Escape because I want to look at something, when I want it to continue again, I can press Control-Shift and the letter H, and then that will make it continue. And then again, Escape to stop, Control-Shift-H, again to start. Now, I haven't made a note of this in your handout, but if I want to slow the scrolling down, if that's too fast, I can press a number on my keyboard. So I just press the number 2, and so you can see it's slowed right down, which is maybe almost too slow. So if I go, say, to 4, it's a little bit faster. If I go to 8, you can see it's going to go really quick. 5 will take it in the middle. So you can just basically, once the automatic scroll is on, you can press any number on the keyboard to speed it up. So I find that 5 is a nice speed to go with. And then again, I can just press Escape. So you might want to make a note of that. I don't have that in your handout, but again, once you've turned the automatic scroll on, just press a number and that will control the speed. Now we did look, I've showed you briefly a couple things on the page magnification. So an easy way to either increase or decrease is just to use the plus or the minus here. But there are some additional zoom tools that are available that are not shown by default. All you really have by default is the selection arrow. This is the Pane tool, which I can click on and I can push my page up. That I would use if I didn't have a mouse that had a scroll wheel. If you've got a mouse that has a scroll wheel, it's easier just to leave it on the arrow and just roll the mouse to scroll. But now if I want additional scroll features, I can right click on the toolbar, and I'm anywhere on this toolbar, and then you can see there's an option that says show select and zoom tools, and what is currently turned on are the items that are checked. So I can choose, say now Marquee Zoom, and that will now be added. So I can see I've now added, there's now an icon added, it's right here. I right click again, go back to show zoom, select and zoom tools. I'm going to choose show all, and now they are all added. And I've given you a reference in your handout as to what all the different options will do. One that I like to use is the Marquee Zoom, and that's this one with the, it's a little magnifier with a box. If I click on that, how that works is I can now click on my page and I can drag around an area that I want to zoom in, and it zooms right in there. And I can click and drag again because you can see it can zoom quite a bit. If I want to decrease the magnification to one preset level, I can hit the Control key and click, and it will go back. So basically, if I haven't dragged, if I don't drag, I can just click and it's going to go up a level at a time. And if I press the control key and click, it'll go back a level at a time. So the level that it's going to, so you can see the numbers changing here. So there I'm at 100%. If I click it once, it goes to 125. Click it again, it'll go to 150. So it's going through these preset levels that are here. And if I do control, as soon as I press the control key, you can see the magnifier changes to a minus, and now it's going back a level at a time. So with this Marquee Zoom, you can either just click to zoom in, control click to zoom out, or I can click and drag and it'll zoom right in on an area. And then again, I can do the minus to come back out. Or clicking this drop down, again, will take me right back to 100%. Now, beside the Marquee Zoom is something called the Dynamic Zoom. And when I click on that, you can see I have an odd symbol. It's like a magnifying glass with curving arrows on it. How this works is you can drag it up the page and it will zoom. You can drag it down and it zooms out. So basically just clicking, I'm dragging up and it's zooming in, dragging down and it's zooming out. And if you have a mouse wheel, this tool will zoom in when you roll forward. So just rolling, so you can see it's also zooming in and out just by rolling forward or up or down. It will also zoom as I use the wheel. Now the pan and zoom is the one right here. It looks like a horizontal and a vertical page. If I click on that, what that's going to let me do is, actually, I think I've got to turn the other one off first. Sorry. Can it just, oh, okay. You can see what it does is give me a little window. And within that little window is a little box. And I can click and drag that box and you can see it adjusts the position of where I'm at in the document. So it basically adjusts the magnification and position of the view area. So it just matches this little rectangle. And as if I can reduce the size of the rectangle, you can see I'm dragging it. So it's like a little window for zooming. And then as I increase the zoom, it's just zooming in on that area that I've selected. So that's called the pan and zoom. And I can click the X to close that. I'll just go back to 100%. And then there's the loop tool, which is this icon right here, just to the left of the selection arrow. If I click the loop tool, when I click on my page, you can see it also gives me a little window and there's a little box here. And as I drag this box around, it also zooms on that area. So it's quite similar to the pan and zoom, but it just basically allows you to magnify a portion of it based on this rectangle. And the rectangle I can size in the document here. And then again, that's what zooms up here at the top. If I wanted to skip back down to the page level, I can use this little magnifying tool. It's a page with a magnifier. That just takes me right down. Actually, I'll close the loop tool screen and then move that out of the way. And now if I go to the magnifier on the page here, that takes me down to the page level. And then the one beside it will change my zoom, so it gives me the full width of the page. And then finally, I can go to 1-to-1. So this one, it's got a 1 and a 1. If I click on that, it takes me right back to 100%. So lots of different options there. You kind of want to experiment with those. Some I don't use very often, and some I change to depending on what my situation is of what I'm doing. So again, that whole extra toolbar was turned on by right-clicking, going to show and select. And now if I decide I don't want all those tools turned on, I can choose reset, and that will take it back to just the original set of tools. And then again, I can right-click, and then I could just pick from them. So if I just maybe want to always have actual size, I could just turn that one on, or I can choose to turn the fit width. So I can add specific ones, or again, I can choose them all by choosing the show all. And then again, once I want to put it back to the way it was, I can choose reset. Okay, so as I already mentioned, the document view by default will give you a tab for each of your open PDFs. And if I want to close one of them, it's really easy just to hit the X, and that will close the document. If I close it by mistake and I want to get it back, I can click File. And if I go to I'll be able to see it right here. So it'll be listed under the recent files here if I'm on File, or I can go to Home, and under Home, it will also give me the recent files here. So either method, so either clicking it from down here or clicking on it from the Home tab. So that's brought the document back up. It's moved it to a new position. So the last tab will always be the last document you open, and I can always drag these to change the order if I want. But if you find you don't want to use the tabs, you can turn them off. And if they're turned off, then you basically would be able to switch documents by going down here to the bottom, and you'd be able to access them down here from the taskbar if they weren't up here in the tabs. So if you prefer not to have these extra tabs, maybe you've got several documents that you want to open and you want to keep your screen less cluttered, you can turn them off by going to the Edit tab and then going down to Preferences. And this is where all of the preferences for Acrobat are, and we'll be going through a few of them as we carry on today. So I'm now going to change the category on the left. So there's a number of categories. I'm going to change to the General category. And now on the right, I'm going to look for Open Documents as New Tabs in the same window. So right here, there is a check mark. So that's why I have new tabs. If I don't want the tabs, I can uncheck it. And if I do that, it requires me closing Acrobat completely and then restarting before that will take effect. So I'm not going to take the time to do that now. I'm going to leave it with the documents as new tabs. Just wanted to point that out if you don't want these tabs to show, if you just want to have a cleaner screen and be able to switch documents just by using the taskbar, then that's how you would go about doing that. And then I'm just going to scroll down here and click OK to close that. And we'll be coming back to that throughout the day for some other options. Now, if I want to create PDFs, I'm going to show you now that I can use something called Adobe Acrobat PDF Maker, which is actually available in your application. So I'm just going to switch to Word for a moment. And I have a document here. It's just a basic Word document. And to create a PDF from this, when you have Acrobat installed, you will automatically have an Acrobat tab available in your application. So I'm going to click the Acrobat tab. So this is in most of your Microsoft applications. So once I click Acrobat at the top, now I have a specific toolbar, and you can see the first icon says Create PDF. So all I would have to do is click on that, and it comes up with the Save Adobe PDF Save As dialog box. It's automatically taken the document name and it's used that, but it's now put a PDF extension. So all I have to do now is click Save. And because I've already done this before, I'm getting a prompt that the document already exists. I'm going to click Yes. And you can see it's now saved the document. And it's actually launched me right into actually, I'm still in Word. It hasn't launched me into the application, but it has saved it as a PDF. And actually, let's just double check. It did open it. So it actually opened that summary as another tab within Acrobat as well. Now, before I created the PDF, I'm actually just going to show you something I forgot to draw your attention to. When I click the Create PDF, down here at the bottom, there's a View Result tab. So if I didn't want it to open the PDF, I could uncheck this. So having that checked is what causes it to open automatically in Adobe. And if I choose Restrict Editing, what that's going to do is it's going to bring up the security dialog box, and this would allow me to put in some restrictions on whether anybody that opens it will be able to make changes. So if I want to require a password to open the document, I can check this box and put in a password. Or if I just want to restrict the editing, I can leave this box checked. I can put in a password And then you can see here, printing is not allowed and changes are not allowed, but I have the option of sort of varying what can be done. So I could make it so they could only print in low resolution, or if I wanted them to be able to print, I would change it to high, and then I can control what kind of changes are allowed as well. And then all I would have to do is click OK on that, and that would set those restrictions when the PDF is created. So again, that's just making sure. So the minute I click on this option, it checks it and it gives me the dialog box that I can set the security. And then again, all I did there was I clicked save, and that saved it. Now there is also an option button here on the left, and this takes me to some additional options. And you'll notice by default, create bookmarks is chosen, and then it says convert word headings to bookmarks. So if your Word document, I'll just come out of here for a sec. So my Word document, I'm going to go to the Home tab here. So when I'm on Executive Summary, I can see that a style was applied called Heading 1. And then if I click over here on Print Advertising on another page, I can see that Heading 2 is applied. So it would take, if I've used styles in my Word document, when I go to create the PDF, and if I click on Options, with this convert, actually I would take this off, and then I could do convert word styles. So that'll convert the word styles to bookmarks. Or if there's any word bookmarks in the document, that will convert those into bookmarks within Adobe. So you've got some options there if you wanted to actually have bookmarks available. And again, those bookmarks were what I was showing you on the navigation panel. Now, if I want to set any preferences before I create the PDF, I can click on Preferences here, and this would give you some settings. There's your security options. Here's been some specific things about Word, and then finally there's some information about bookmarks. So this is where I can create a little bit more detail. I can specify if I've got styles used in the document, whether or not I want to bookmark them. So I can uncheck maybe the items that I don't want bookmarked, and let's see if there's something else here, if I want the footer bookmark. So you can specify, so these are the names of all the styles that have been used in the document, and I can specify which ones are bookmarked. So that again is choosing preferences there before you actually go to create the PDF. Now this toolbar is available in all of your Office applications. If I went to Excel, you can see there's the Acrobat toolbar there. And again, I would have access to the create and the preferences. And then if I went to PowerPoint, I also have the same toolbar available there. Now, if you're in a situation where you want to create a PDF, but you don't want to use the toolbar here, you have, and I'll do this actually in here from within PowerPoint, I can go to File and I can choose Print, and then I can choose the Adobe PDF printer as my printer, and that way I'm printing to PDF instead. And so that's an option that you can use if the Acrobat toolbar is not available. And the other thing that happens with this is if there's any links in your documents, when you print to PDF, those links will not be there. So it's as if you've actually printed the document and then scanned it. So it's another approach that you can take to creating a PDF. And if I go to printer properties, you've got some options in here in terms of I can control the layout, I control the paper quality, and then here are the specific Adobe PDF settings. So I can set some different settings in here. Those are a number of variety here, and I can control. One thing I always make sure I do if I'm printing to PDF is I often will take that add document information off, so it won't add any metadata, which I'm going to be talking about a little bit later. And then again, if I don't want to view the results right away, I can uncheck that option there. And I'll just cancel that for now. So two methods you can use within your other applications. You can either use the Acrobat toolbar, or you can print to PDF. And then finally, if I want to create within Adobe, I can go back to Acrobat. I'll just go to my first document there. So now that I'm back in the documents, And I'm actually just going to close these for now. I'm going to save anything I've done there. So I've closed all my files and now I'm just back at the home screen. I'm going to go to the Tools tab and I can either choose Create PDF in the Create and Edit, or because it's on the Tools panel over on the right, I can choose it from there. So I'm going to click Create PDF. And you can see when you first choose that there's a number of different formats over here on the left. So I'm going to start with just single file, and I'm going to click on Create, and what that will do is it will take me to my files. I can specify a file location, and so here's that same Word document that I had open. I can open it, and I'm going to actually close it first here. I've got to make sure it's not open in Word anymore. And now I can open it up, and then it gives me some options in here that I can set for security. And what's interesting here, why has it done that? I'm going to just try this again. I'm going to click here on select a file. There we go. Okay, so when I clicked on create, it was in the settings, which I didn't want to do. So actually, let me just change that again. Sorry. Okay, so if I back out of here, just want to make sure this is clear. So when I click the Create PDF, instead of clicking Create, I'm going to click where it says Select a File first. I'm going to specify the file. And then if I just want to go ahead and create without choosing any settings, I can click here on Create. This will now come up, and oh, it's telling me to please wait. So what it's actually doing is it's actually starting the application which created the selected documents. I have to wait for it to do that before I actually click OK. So sometimes this can take a little bit of time. I wonder if I might find this works better if I've actually got Word closed. Usually it doesn't take this long. Yeah, so you can see it is starting the application. Okay, I'm not going to take the time to wait, but basically what I would have to do is wait till the OK button was available. And then if I didn't want to set any other settings, I could just click OK, and it would create the file from here. So I'm just going to cancel that one. There is an advanced setting option here as well that, sorry, and that takes me to, again, similar settings that we saw in the preferences from within the Adobe PDF Maker. So I can choose whether I want to have bookmarks or links available. Now, if I want to do, instead of doing single files, just close this and bring that back again. If I want to do multiple files, I have an option of dragging them over, and I'll just get the, sorry, just got to open this file again. Okay, so I'm just opening up. So I'm just going to, if you've got two screens, you can move it onto a separate screen, but I'm just going to, so you'll be able to see this. So if I have multiple files, what I can actually do is drag them over. So I'm going to choose my summary doc, and I'm also going to choose my Excel file, and I'm going to drag them over. And again, I've got to make sure, sorry, I still have the file open. Okay, so I'm going to drag them over. And what that's actually doing is there. I've got the files, and so this time it actually created there, it brought up the file, and I can just cancel this because I don't want to set any security. So that's what should have happened when I did the single file. It should have actually created it and open it. So I think there's something not right in that summary document. For some reason, it's not bringing that up. So let me just show you that again. So again, when I've got the create file open, I'm going to not take the summary doc this time. I'm going to make sure that PowerPoint's not open. I'm going to take the analysis and the PowerPoint file and drag those over. So by simply dragging them over, it's actually, I didn't have to click create. I just dragged them into the screen, and there you can see it's opened up. Let's open up the analysis one, and in a few seconds here, there's the PowerPoint one. So it's created PDFs of both of those, and it's opened them within the application. So that's another way you can do it, just dragging them and dropping them into that multiple file screen. And just go back to create again. I can go to a web page. So if I click web page, now I'm just going to go. So if I went to the Iowa Bar website, and then if I went back to here, so if I can enter a URL, I'm just pasting the URL, and I'm going to click capture multiple levels. Now, depending on the complexity of the web page, you can capture multiple levels, but some websites can have hundreds of pages, which could result in a very large file. So it's best to just start by downloading one level at a time, just to sort of see what results you get. So I'm just going to leave it at one level. And I do have the ability to go to advanced settings if I want to set any additional conversion preferences. And then I can just go ahead and click create. And looks like it's giving me an error. Well, let's just see if I go to, I'm going to go here instead. So some things will come over and others won't. Let's see what this will do. Okay, so if you get errors, it could be that the website's got some security on it, or it could be a number of different things. Let's see, I'm just going to go to another one. Let's go try Savvy. Okay, let's try this. Oh, sorry, that's a PDF. Okay, I'm just going to try this. So it's a little bit of trial and error depending on the websites that you're using. Let's go with that one. Okay, so depending on the website, you can see because ours has so many different color backgrounds, you can see this didn't come in necessarily very clear. And that's because of, so if there's lots of color and that kind of thing, the websites won't necessarily come over that well. So it's just a little bit of experimentation. And I'm just going to go back to this one now. The other option you can also do, if you right click and go to print, you can Yeah, so this is why it had some issues. It's because of some of the graphics on there. But if I wanted this information, because I wanted to read it in a printed format instead of on screen, you can see I still get the text. So if it doesn't work to convert using the other method, then you can also just save to PDF. And all I did there was I right-clicked and chose print. And then just making sure that the destination is set to save as PDF. So you've got a couple of options if you are trying to print or you're trying to convert a web page. Now, if you are wanting to, you can also create a PDF from your clipboard contents. So if I had something, let's just try a web page again. So let's say I really wanted this information, but it was, I just want to just have that bit of information. So if I just take a little bit of information and right click and copy, then if I go back to Adobe, I have the option to, let's close this one. I have the option to go to create and I can choose clipboard. And it says it's going to create the content from the clipboard, create the PDF from the content stored in your clipboard. So simply by copying that information, put it on the clipboard. Now when I go to create, now I've got a PDF just of that paragraph I highlighted. So that's another way to go if you've got a web page that's got a lot of graphics and a lot of things that you don't want to necessarily take all of it, just highlight the bit that you want. So I could have highlighted just that text, and that would eliminate all of this information. And now all I've done is I've copied, close this one. And so again, now when I choose clipboard and create, now I've got all that information available. And when you do the create from clipboard, it doesn't know what to call it because there's no name to it. So at this point, it's called untitled. I would just go to File, Save, and put it in my folder, and I would give it a name and then save it. And then I'll close that one, and I'll go back here over on the right to create. And now I also have the ability to create from a scanner. Now you can create a PDF directly on your scanner. You basically can just put the whatever it is that you're wanting to create a PDF on your flatbed scanner and choose the settings from the actual scanner. But this gives you some ability to do some settings as well. Now I actually don't have a scanner, but I would click here where the scanner, where it says no scanners found, and I would actually choose my scanner. And then I would be able to go here to default settings, and I would be able to, sorry, I had just clicked on this little gear icon, and this would give me the settings that are available in my scanner. So this will vary depending on the scanner that you're using. And I've given you an example in your handout of the one for a specific scanner, but you basically have the option to change your resolution here. And the resolution, if you're going to the best, you want to make sure that you actually set it to at least 200 dpi. So you would have the option here once the scanner was selected to change the resolution to 200 dpi. And then if you want to make the text so it's editable and searchable, you can see right now that recognize text, OCR, so that stands for optical text recognition. It will recognize it, but then if you click the gear on the right, if you want to be able to search, where the output is, instead of searchable image, you want to change this to editable text and images. And that way you'll be able to edit the text and the images. So without doing that, you won't have the ability to actually edit the text. So it depends on whether you want to be able to do that. But that's an additional, so that again is making sure that recognize text is checked and then clicking on this gear and changing this to the editable text. Okay, so I'm going to close from there, and then the document I'm going to make sure I have open is the one called Market Summary and Plan. And I'm also going to make sure I have the Bodea contract. And the one I'm going to have on my screen right now is the market summary. So I'm going to switch tabs now. So I'm looking at the market summary and plan. Now, this document has a couple of graphics in it. There's a graphic that is at the top of every page. It's got some graphs. It's got a little graphic in the footer. So it's a fairly short document. If I click here on the page thumbnails, you can see it's only 4 pages. But I might choose to, in larger files, it may require that you want to reduce the size of the PDF. So first of all, we can find out what the actual size is by auditing the space usage. Now, it's important if you are going to be filing a document that it is reduced, and it's for EDMS, I've got this in your handout, it's 20 millibytes maximum. So you want to always make sure that you've checked to see sort of what size your document is. So to do that, I'm going to go on the Tools panel over here on the right. I've added the Optimize PDF option. Now, again, we did that. When we were under Tools, the Optimize is in this Protect and Standardize group. So it's over here on the right now because I had chosen to add it. It normally won't be there. But once your file is open and you click the Optimize PDF, it gives you an Optimize PDF toolbar up here at the top. And I'm going to click on the Advanced Optimization option. And in here, you can see what your image settings are currently, what it can adjust them to. So this just shows you what's set up. And then there is an optimize images only if there is a reduction in size. So if you've reduced in size, it'll optimize the images. So I'm not going to change any settings just yet. I'm going to go over here to audit space usage. And you can see it's telling me that right now the total is 145,168 bytes. So that's the total size right now. And I'm going to see what happens now if I simply click OK. It takes me to save my dialog box. Now, the Save As dialog box, what it's doing is it's forcing me to save even though I didn't change any settings, but it is going to optimize this PDF, and I might not want to override the original one. So I might want to do a test here. So I'm just going to add the word optimized to the end of the file name. I'm going to click Save. And now if I go to my File Explorer, I'm just going to have a look at these 2 documents. So the optimized one, now you can see, is 142 kilobytes, and they're both the same size. So I didn't change any settings. It still assumed that I had changed some settings, and it went ahead. It's just the same right now. So when I was in the file, all I did is I clicked Advanced Optimization. I clicked Audit Space Usage to see what it was, and then I didn't change anything. So when I clicked OK, though, it assumed I'd changed something, and then it's given me the opportunity to save it. Now, if I'm not 100% sure what I should change in this screen, because this is all a bit confusing, reading things like bicubic downsampling, etc. So if I'm not sure that I want to change the options here, what I can do is I can go right to this compress PDF option. So instead of changing anything, so I just used that other screen so I could check what the size was. But if I now click on compress PDF, now depending on what version of Adobe you're using, this compress PDF, it might say reduce file size. Now the options I have here are compress single file or multiple files. If I wanted to do them both at once, I just want to do this one. But depending on the version that you have, this might say reduce file size. What Adobe was doing, it was testing whether which name they wanted to use, and after updating to the latest release, I think I have the most recent, and it's now at compressed PDF, but I have seen it in other versions say reduce file size. So depending on which one you have, they will both produce the same result. So all I'm going to do now is just click compress PDF. I'm going to click the location where I want it to go. I'm going to use the same name that I had before there. And now when I save it, it gives me a message here that it did successfully compress the PDF size to 116 kilobytes. And if I look in the File Explorer, I can see that as well. So if I wanted to compress further, I would have to experiment with these advanced options and experiment with the settings in here. Okay, and so I've just clicked close, so that's closed the toolbar there. Now we're going to move on to some details in terms of working within the PDF. And with this file that I have on my screen now, and again, it's the market summary one, I'm going to see if I can search for information. So I'm going to go to the Edit tab, and I'm going to choose Find. So if the PDF has searchable text in it, you can look for information. So I'm going to look for the word geo here. And when I type the word in, you can see it's found 2 exact matches. So when I press enter, there you can see it's found the first one. And now I can click next or previous. And it should, there we go. So it took a little moment there. There's the next version. So there's 2 versions of it, 2 instances of the word geo. Okay, so there it took me to, you can see it there and there. So that shows you how you can find information, and I'm going to hit the X to close that. The other thing you can do once you've found it, sorry, it's just, I'm going to have to close that. My screen seems to be stuck. I'm going to just close those and just open them again. Okay, so I'd gone to Edit, Find. You'll see the keyboard shortcut is Control F if I want to use a keyboard. I'm going to look for the word geo. There's the first one. There we go. Now it's working properly. It was a bit slow there for a moment. So there it's found the first one. I don't have to click next. I can just press enter, and there it found the next one. So I could take this a step further now. And now that I've found that information, I can replace it by clicking on Replace With, the bottom here. And now I'm going to replace it with another company name. And now I'm going to click Replace, and it will replace the first instance. And then I'm going to click Replace Next. And now it's replaced the next instance. So you can see these are features that Microsoft Word has as well, but you can see if you didn't change it in the original document, you have the ability to change it within the PDF, provided you have it set for, provided that it has the searchable text. Now, if I want to do a more detailed search, I can go back to Edit, Find, and there's a little gear here. If I click on the little gear, I have the option to choose Open Full Acrobat Search, and this gives me a little bit control over where it searches, and I can also choose it, get it to search all PDF documents. So if I chose all PDF documents, I could actually click in here and browse for locations. So I could search through a series of files as well. So it gives you a little bit more information. So I can either access that from that little gear, or I can also go to Edit, and I can go to Advanced Search, and that brings up the same thing. So, you know, if I'm wanting to be case sensitive, if I'm wanting it to include any bookmarks, if there's any comments in the document, it just allows you to specify a little bit more information. Now, this particular document, as we observed earlier, is 4 pages, and I may want to change the order of the pages. Now, when I was doing that search, it kept bringing up the Edit PDF toolbar here, so I'm just going to close that. And now I'm going to go to the Organize Page option, which is over here on the Tools pane on the right. It shows me my 4 thumbnails, and what this is going to allow me to do is to easily change the order of the pages. So if I wanted page 4 to be page 1, I can just click and drag it, and you can see as soon as I drag to change the position, the numbered labels at the bottom automatically change. So it's that easy to kind of reorganize your pages just by clicking and dragging. I have the ability to insert new pages. So if I want to insert from another file, I can do that. I can extract pages. So for example, if I wanted this to be a separate page, I could choose extract. And when you choose the extract, it's important to consider whether you want to delete the page after extracting. So if I was removing this page from the file, I could choose delete. Or if I'm just wanting to make sure I extract it as a separate file, I can do that. And then if I click extract, I can specify where it is that I want this to be extracted to. So I'm going to put it in my Savvy folder. And now, so that was page 3. If I now go into my folders, so it took the file, so it took the original file name and it added a 3 because I had exported page 3. So if I open that up, you can see it's just one page. So this particular file is one page. So it's still in the other file, but I've extracted as a separate page. So that's quite a nice feature to be able to access. Again, all I did to get that was I clicked the organize page option. I clicked the page that I want to extract, click the extract option, make sure extract is a separate page is checked, and then click extract. So whatever your existing file name is at the top here, so in this case now, because I have page 1 selected, it would create a file with that file name with a 1. You can always rename it afterwards, but that's what it will default to. I'm going to cancel that. Also, if for any reason you want to rotate the page, you can choose a rotate option. I'm just clicking this arrow up here on the toolbar. That's useful if you have a landscape page in your document and you want it to be a different orientation. So you can either rotate counterclockwise or clockwise. You can choose to delete a page from the PDF using this trash can. And if you choose replace, you can replace with another file. And then split would allow you to, like if I wanted to split, I could click split, and that would actually allow me to split into multiple files. So I can specify which pages I want to split by, and I'd get them, I'd be able to split it up into several different files. Also, you're going to notice that as I hover on each of the pages, I also have the rotate options there and the little trash can, and then these 3 dots will give me the same options I have from the insert tab. And then finally, I have a more option, which you can see there's some other options here. And under this more, I like to use this page labels option. And actually, just before I do that, I'm going to make sure I have page 3 selected. And then I'm going to go to more, and I'm going to go to page labels. And what I have the ability to do here is to renumber my pages. So right now, what's selected is page 3, so it's set for 3. But I could choose from, and I could specify a range if I wanted to instead. So I could say from 1 to 3, 2 to 3, etc. I'm just going to leave it at selected. And then the numbering is going to begin a new section. I can change the style here. So if I wanted this to now start with the letter A, I could do that. I can put in a prefix. So I could say, if this was an appendix, I can put the word appendix in. And now when I want to make sure there's a space after that, you can see it's giving me a sample. So I've typed the word appendix, put in a space. So now when I click OK, you can see it's renumbered that page and it's now calling it Appendix A. Now, if I go back to that again, and now you can see it's actually calling it that. I can change this now, and I might want to call it section instead. And now you can see it's called Section A. So you have the ability of controlling what that says. So that prefix option, it could put anything in there. I could have the word page if I wanted to, the word part, whatever you want. And then again, you just have to choose the style of your page numbering. Now to get out of the organized pages, once I'm finished there, I can click close. And now I mentioned earlier the topic of metadata. What metadata basically is, it can be any information about the document and its contents. It could be the author's name, keywords, copyright information, etc. And I may not want that information to be in my file. So how I can see what metadata I have is by going to File and Properties. And then I'm going to click on the Description tab. And I can see what's in here now is the title of the document, the author, and the subject, but it might have other information as well. So for example, I might not want the author's name to be in there. I can just highlight it and hit delete. And now when I choose OK, I have removed that from the metadata. So that information is not there. I can also go to additional metadata, and it shows me much the same as what I had here, but there would be additional information in here, possibly, and then I can click Advanced. And if I expand each one of these, I can see the other information that is in here. And so, for example, here's a company name that I wasn't aware of. I don't see that anywhere here, but it is in the metadata here. So if I click on that, I can click Delete, and that will clear that information. And then I could expand again to see what else is here. Maybe I don't want the create date to be found, so I can delete that. And then when I choose OK, and then OK, and again, that information is has been deleted. So you have the ability to either add information, like maybe you want some of that information to be there. So if you want the author's name or other keywords, you can put that in, and then that allows you, that gives you information you can search for when you're using the advanced search. But if you don't want that information to be seen, it's important to check this before you send the document to somebody else. Now we also in the properties have the ability to set the initial view, and I'll go back to File and Properties again. And if I click the initial view tab, I have the option of specifying how I want the document to open. So for example, I could choose to have the menu bar, the toolbars, and the window controls all hidden. I could choose, instead of having the file name show, I could choose to have the document title, and that reflects what was in, let's cancel this again for a minute, that reflects what was in here. So this title here says Market Summary and Plan. I'm just going to add 2022 to that. So it's not part of the file name now, but if I was in the initial view tab now, and if I was to choose show document title, that's what would show up here. So I have the ability to control the title to be different than the file name if I wanted to. And then in terms of, see the navigation tab right now is set for page only. I could choose it that it bring up the Pages panel in the page. So that way this panel will be automatically open to the Pages panel. Again, if that's what I want. The page layout, I can have it set for 2 pages facing. The magnification, I can have it set to go to 100%. So you have the ability to, whatever you set in here is what's going to happen the next time you open the document. So that's quite a useful feature as well to have. Okay, so now moving on, if I want to export the information, if I want to export this PDF, I can go over to the panel on the right. I can click Export PDF, and then I can specify what format I want it to be exported in, and that will actually, now it's not always 100%, but quite often it'll actually give you something that's quite workable. So I could export this now to Microsoft Word, and then I would be able to use it in Microsoft Word. So if you don't want it to be a PDF anymore, it doesn't work very well with scanned documents. Sometimes it won't be, the quality won't be that great. You might have to do some editing, but it's a good start instead of retyping the document. Now, in addition to exporting the entire document, you also have the ability to export only a portion. So let's just say I want to take this information here. So I basically highlight the information I want to export, and if I right click on the selection, I can choose Export Selection As, and that will actually let me export just that information. Very similar to what I showed you earlier, where you could copy and then you could create a PDF from what was on the clipboard. this is another method, but this takes you right to within Microsoft Word. It doesn't let you export to other formats. This is a method that you can use for exporting to Microsoft Word. Now, in terms of editing the content in the PDF, I have the ability to click this Edit PDF option on the right. And when I do that, it's going to open up the Edit PDF toolbar up here at the top. And I can simply edit the text. But if I click here on Edit, I'm in edit mode. I can click in here and I can erase text or add to it. And you can see over here on the right, it shows you the format that it's going to add it in, because it actually puts the text in separate text boxes. So I could change the font. If I wanted this to be a different font, I can highlight it and I'll just choose Arial as a different, and I can change. So you can see I can edit it much the same as I could in a word processing program. Now, in terms of editing, I've given you a list of fonts that are approved by EDMS. You've got Arial, Times New Roman, Times, Courier New, Tahoma Geneva, Helvetica, Calibri, and Cambria. So if you're going to want to add text to a PDF, I can click the Add Text option, and then I'm just going to click over here in a white area of my document, and I can actually click and drag. Okay, so there's my text. So it's actually created a little text box for me here, and the default that it's come in is Arial 10. Now that's because I've changed my preference. If I go up here to Edit and Preferences, and if I go under Content Editing on the left, you'll see here's the default font. So I have changed mine to Arial. The default is normally Calibri. So you just decide what default you want if you're going to add text, and then that whatever you set it to here will be what you get when you add a new text box. And then the fallback font for editing, instead of letting Acrobat choose, again, you could specify a specific font. So that gives you sort of control of what's going to happen when you're actually editing your document. Now, once a text has been added, if I want to move it around, I can click up here in my toolbar on the selection arrow, and then I would be able to go, actually, sorry, I need to click on Edit in the Edit Text. There, and now I can see I get an arrow, and then I can click. There we go. So now I've clicked. It's a little bit harder. I've made my mouse bigger, so I don't see the options quite as clearly. So I wait till I see 4 arrows, and then I can click and drag the text into a new position. I can rotate that text using this little rotate handle. So I'm just clicking on the little, I wait till I see curving arrow, and then I can click, and you can see it can actually rotate or angle that text. I can delete the text box by hitting the delete key when it's selected. And now I'll just put in some more text here again. When you first click on the page, if you right click, you can actually make the text direction vertical. And so now when I type my text, it's gone vertical. So I can start it out, instead of having to rotate it after the fact, I can start with it being vertical. So again, all I did was there is I clicked where I wanted the text to go, and I right clicked before I started typing, and I chose make text direction horizontal. Now, in addition to adding text, you can add images. So I'm going to click here on Add Image. Now, I don't know that I gave you this logo, but basically you could add any image. If you have an image, when you click Open, there you can see now the image is attached to my mouse, and I click and it puts the image in my document. I can resize by grabbing these corners. Oh, that's going to rotate it. Again, it's a bit off with this big mouse. It should change to a straight arrow. There we go. So normally you'll get 2 arrows on an angle, and then you can click. See, it's still just rotating. If you see the rounded arrow, then you know it's going to rotate. There we go. There's the double-headed. So you can see it's on an angle, and now I'm able to make it smaller. Now I'm going to go to my contract. So in this contract, there's an image here. If I want to instead of adding an image, I can actually replace an image. So I want to replace this image. So what I can do to do that is I'm going to click the Edit PDF option first, so I get the toolbar, and then I'm going to choose, I'm going to right click, I'm going to click on this image, and I'm going to right click, and there'll be a Replace Image option. And now I'm going to choose that same logo, and now I have replaced the image with, so instead of deleting and then reinserting, you can actually replace it. Now, we're starting to run out of time, and I want to make sure that I cover the electronic signatures properly. So I'm just going to skip the link option. The information is in your handout there. That's how to add links, and if you wanted to create a table of contents. We'll come back to that. But now, in this document, I want to add a signature here. So first of all, you have to create your signature as an image for an electronic signature, and the easiest way to do that is just to sign a piece of paper, and then I usually scan as a JPEG as well as a PDF, so I have some flexibility how it's used. In your handout, I think I've just mentioned a JPEG, but I would do both. I would scan it as a JPEG as well as a PDF. And there's two ways you can do, there's more than two, but the two ways I'm going to show you today is I'm going to show you the fill and sign tool and the stamp tool. So for the fill and sign, I'm going to close the Edit PDF toolbar, and I'm going to click on Fill and Sign over here on the right in the Tools panel. And I get the Fill and Sign toolbar up here at the top. And I'm going to click where it says Sign Yourself. Now, if you haven't used this at all before, it'll have the ability to add signature or add initials. Once a signature has been added, this will change and it will actually show you the signature. So I'm going to click Add Signature, and then I can just type text and it would look like this, and I could change the font by going here to change style, but I actually want to use an image. So I'm going to click Image, and I'm going to choose the JPEG that I have. And now that's inserted my signature. I'm now going to click Apply, and now I can click and position my signature. If I put it in and I don't want it there, I can hit the little trash can and that'll remove it. And so now when I go back to Sign Yourself, you can see it's there automatically. I can choose it and place it where I want it to be. If I want it bigger, I can click the big A. If I want it smaller, I can click the little a. So it's really easy to add those. If once I've added it, if I don't want the signature to be there, I can hit the minus and that will take it away. So the hardest part of this is getting your signature scanned, but once you've done that, it's really easy to add it using that method. Now, as an alternative, if you didn't want to add it using the fill and sign, and actually I'll just get rid of it from here. So I'm going to go to Edit PDF, and I'm just going to click on it and delete it so it's not there. The other way I can go is I can use the stamp, and again, remember we added the stamp tool earlier. It's not normally over there. We added it from the Tools pane. So once I choose Stamp, it will show up here at the top. If I click the Stamp button, it shows me some existing stamps. So I can click the draft stamp and basically just click anywhere I want it to be. I can drag it to move it around. I can hit delete. I like the Sign Here one. So I can click Sign Here and I can just point. So now if I was giving this to somebody to sign, they'd know that they needed to sign there. And now to actually create that signature as a stamp, I have the ability to go to Custom Stamps, and I can go to Create, and I'm going to go to Browse, and I find that the PDF works better than the JPEG if I'm adding it as a stamp. So I'm going to choose, I had created a signature PDF file. I'm going to click Open. I'm going to click OK. And then for the category, I'm going to create a category called Signatures in case I have a number of signatures I want to use. And I'm going to add a name to this. So now when I go to Stamp, I can go to Signatures, choose the signature, and now I can add it to the document. So that's another approach that you can take. Now, when you've added it as a stamp, it's nice to have the stamp palette on. So I'm going to click the stamp palette, And then I can leave this on my screen and I can change it by the category. There's my custom category. So now the signature would be available here at all times. So as soon as I want to sign again, I click on it and then click where I want to sign. So that becomes much quicker than having to choose the fill and sign and then look for it on the toolbar. If I have this little panel here, I can quickly sign using that method. Now I'm going to close that. And the other thing I'll just show you is when you're in the stamp drop down, there's an option here that says show stamp names. If I turn that on, now I don't see, I just see the name that I put in when I was creating it, it shows there instead of what the signature actually looks like. And if I bring up my stamp palette, it still shows as the actual signature. So that's the difference. Here it would show by names, but here it's still going to show by the visual. So again, depending on which way you want it to go. Okay, and I'm going to close from there. And we're now going to look at redaction. Now, redaction is the process of removing visible text and graphics from your document. So if there's information that you don't want, sensitive information that you don't want displayed, you can choose to redact it. So I'm going to turn the redact toolbar on by clicking the redact option in the tools pane. And when I go here to redact an image, redact text and images, it's a drop down. I'm going to click properties here first. And when I click on the properties, I can see what it's going to do by default is the redacted area fill color is going to be white. Now I had already changed that. What it normally is black. And then the outline color is normally not black, it's normally red. So I just wanted to see the default. So the default is it's going to fill with black. And then the mark appearance is going to be outlined in red. So when I choose OK now, and you can see my mouse is a little plus sign here, I'm going to just click and drag over my signature. And now you can see it shows a white box with a red outline. So that's what the, this is a two-step process. So you first of all mark what you want to redact, and it will look like this when it's marked. But then once you actually redact it, it will show as a black box. So I'm going to redact that. I'm going to redact this address. So you basically go through your document and you redact whatever it is that you don't want to show. And then to actually get it to go ahead and redact, up here on the right, I would click apply. And it's going to also warn you that it will remove the redacted information, and you might want to remove hidden data and metadata at the same time. So if this box is checked, it will also do that. So now when I choose OK, and it automatically takes the name of the file and it adds the word redacted to it. So I can click save. And so I still have my original file, but now this is my redacted version. So you can see I've just got black boxes where that information was. There is no way at this point of undoing it. So if I sent somebody the redacted version, they can't undo the fact that it's been redacted. Now I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go back to the original one again. So I'm going to go back to the original Bodea contract. So you can see it's not marked anymore. I'm going to click over here on the right on redact. And I'm going to go back up here to the properties. And just as an alternative now, I'll show you what would have happened if I had left it at white. And I'm going to leave the redaction mark the same though. So now when I choose OK, and now when I click and drag, so it still looks, so initially it should look, so when I'm on it, you can, when I'm away from it, it shows the red line. But when I'm actually on it, it shows me what it's going to look like. So because I chose white now as the redaction, it's not going to show as being redacted. So I use that. I use this if I want to maybe fix some blemishes in a scanned document, or if there's something in the document that I don't want, like maybe I don't want this image here. I'd have to be careful to actually drag high enough to get rid of. That might be tricky to get. Delete that. So if you redact something and you want to get rid of it, you just click on it and delete it. So I'm just going to try and get high enough here. Yeah, that would be close enough, I think. So you can see I'm having trouble getting the whole, there we go. Okay, and so now when I go to apply and then OK, doesn't even look like that information was there. So depending on the purpose, now if I get this message, it's because I think I already had run it once. There we go. The purpose of redaction, if it's for a court document, you need to show that there was information there that has been redacted. So you want to leave it with the black. But this, I just wanted to show you that you could change it to white if you're just fixing up a document and you don't want to edit. You can't edit it because it's a scan that wasn't scanned to have editable text. So if you're just trying to remove some of it, you can make, like if I didn't want this picture to show, that's another option. If I redact it and then apply, take the sanitize off there. And so now it doesn't show as well. So it's just another way you can redact and not have it show. And I'm going to close from there. And now I'm just going to go back to, I'm going to close both of those. I'm going to go back to my market summary. And I'm going to go now to, I'm going to close to get out of the edit. And I'm going to go to the combine option. So right now I have 4 pages to this document, and I'm going to click Add Files, and I'm going to go into my folder here, and I'm going to choose to add the Bodea contract. And then I'm going to click Combine up here at the top. So what that should now, oh, you know what? Sorry, I made a mistake here. I didn't have to actually have anything open when I did this. So let me just close these. Okay, so because I don't have anything open, when I go to Tools here, I'm going to go to Combine. So what I need to do is choose both files that I want to combine. So I want to combine my Bodea contract and my market plan. So I'm using the Control key on the keyboard to make sure they're both selected. Now when I go to Open, I've got both files. And when I hover on it, I can click the little plus sign here, and that lets me zoom in to see that document. If I click back on this thumbnail and click, see this little arrow at the top, if I click on that, it expands to show me the other 4 pages. So I can see now I've got, what I've essentially done is I've combined 2 PDFs into one. And by expanding it, I could choose to, if I needed to delete a page, it then gives me the same ability that I showed you earlier when we were looking at organized pages. But now as a result of choosing the combine, if I now click this combine option over here on the right, it now has created something called a binder. So now I would have to save that, and I can call it market summary and contract, whatever you want to call it. And now when I look at in my navigation pane, if I look at my thumbnails here, I can see there's the first page, there's a contract, and there's where the other pages start. And this might be where I want to change my numbering. You can see I've got a 1, and then it's just consecutively numbered it. But if I wanted it to be identified as being separate pages, or a separate document, I might want to restart this as a 1. So I would now switch to organized pages, click on more, go to the page labels, and this would be maybe where I want to, I don't maybe want the word section there, but now you can see it's starting at 1 again. So if you want to renumber at any point, you can use that option. Okay, and it looks like I have time to go back to the feature I skipped. So I skipped the linking option. So I'll show you that with this. So if I want to say have a table of contents at the beginning of this document, what I can do is I can, first of all, add a new page here. So I'm going to add a page by going to the organized pages, and up here on the toolbar, I'm going to go to insert, and I'm going to choose blank page. So because I have page 1 selected, I can go to blank page, and I want it to be the first page. So I'm clicking before, and first. So that indicates I want the blank page to go before the first page. So I didn't actually have to have this selected. You can specify here. So now I've got a blank page I can work with. So I'm going to double click on this. And I'm going to now go to Edit PDF, and I'm going to go to Add Text, and I'm going to type, I'm just going to type the word contract, and I'm going to hit Tab a couple of times, and I'm going to type a 2, indicating that it's on page 2. And I can press Enter, and then I can do Market Summary, and I'm going to just tab over, and then I'm going to put in a 3. So I'm manually typing the pages, and you could choose to actually have created this page in Microsoft Word first and saved it as a PDF that actually had, that way I'm not tabbing over as much. Like I have a little bit more control over the format I find when I'm in Word, but I wanted you to see that you could create it from scratch within Acrobat. So once the text is there, what we need to do is we need to create a link. And so how we create the link is by going to, on the add text, I'm going to go to link, and I'm going to link to okay, so I'm clicking on link, and I'm going to choose, sorry, I'm going to choose add, edit, web, or document link. And then, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the mouse around the first page number. And now I can indicate what I want that link to do. So I want that link to go to a specific page. And you can see the link type is it's going to be an invisible rectangle, so it's not actually going to show up. So I'm not changing anything there. I'm just accepting what's come up. Now I'm going to click Next. And now it says use the scroll bars, mouse, zoom tools to select the target view, and then set link. So I'm actually going to go to the page where the contract is, and now I'm going to choose Set Link. So now it shows the link. I'm just going to close there. And so now I'm on my title page. When I click, you can see my mouse changes to the little hand. When I click the 2, it's now gone to page 2. Okay, now I'll do that again now with the second one. So I'm going back to page 1. So again, this could have been created elsewhere. Didn't have to create it in Adobe. But now when I go to Edit PDF, I would click the word link. I'm choosing the first option of Add, Edit, Web, or Document link. And now I'm going to drag around the 3. I'm going to accept the defaults here where it's going to go to a page view. And now I'm going to scroll down to actually see page 3 and then set the link. And then close from there. And now when I click, I can go to page 3 or I can go to page 2. So it doesn't have to be a table of contents. You can also create links anywhere within the document that basically you're wanting to click and have it go to a specific page. Okay, so that's all the information I have for you today. A lot of information to cover. All the information is in your handout. But if there's anything that I didn't cover that you want information on, please feel free to type your question now in the chat panel. We'll leave this open for a bit so you can type in your questions. And Katie will forward those questions to me. I'll respond to the questions and those will be sent. I think, Katie, what you're probably going to do is send them back to one point person, probably Christy, and then those will be distributed to you so you can have answers to your questions. So I thank you for attending today's session, and I wish you enjoy the rest of your afternoon.